Are we already getting into it? Is this
Word in.
are we right in? Okay. We're gonna start with well. Firstly, thank you everybody for joining us for the strange Saturday Super
It's been
Show.
recording for 2 minutes.
Has it really? Okay. Well, we're getting. This is it. This is the
Yeah.
opening right here. This was
You
kind
brought
of a
snacks. I
brainchild
bought vodka.
of both of us. But I hope you're not offended if I say this is my
This
baby
is
of coming
this
up
is your
with this
bag.
Saturday. I really wanted to do something really stupid like this, and Katie is humoring me a little bit with this. Just we're gonna be vibing.
Yeah.
We're gonna be vibing here. No high production values. No anything.
Do we ever have
no
high
scripts.
production
I didn't
values?
even take. I took no
Me
notes.
either.
Not
I
a
literally
single
just
note.
finished reading this 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I read it a few hours ago. But I feel like we need a quick disclaimer before we get into this. So I apologize for how bad this is gonna be. Everybody, we will be discussing Battle Pope. The Battle Pope is the Battle Pope, not the actual Pope. The actual Pope is still in the Vatican doing Pope work, not battle work. The Battle Pope does the battle work. He's not the Pope. He's the Battle Pope, not the real Pope. Not the real Pope, the Battle Pope.
Beautiful disclaimer.
So if you haven't seen the Spike TV adaptation,
the mouth of Robert Kirkman.
That is from the Spike TV adaptation, of which only one episode I think still exists, and the rest have been lost to, fucking Hollywood. So
They've been lost to Big Battle.
I ripped that out. Yeah. So that's I wanted to do that, but let's.
You are coming in so high octane,
dude. This is gonna be such a funny thing to discuss because, like, man, it's a wild ride. But Kirkman is top 2 writer of all time for me.
Greatest to ever do it.
It's just. It's I was avoiding saying it. No, I do think there's a legitimate argument for him to be called the greatest comic book writer of all time. And I feel like that's not a crazy statement to say, I feel like. But man, it's wild seeing where he started. But there's I feel like there's things here that you can like track to like be like, oh man, there's things. By the way, we got this stuff through the Skybound sale. My book is
mine also falling apart. My back cover is stayed on. For those tuning into the audio podcast, Jay's front and back cover are just completely off. His Battle Pope is naked.
My Battle Pope is naked. If you saw my my short where I unboxed this, I didn't open it, but the second I opened it,
right there was a decided like crick.
Yeah, not ideal. I will say I love the back of the book stuff on like all the how. I love that shit. Like I eat that shit up, man.
What a fucking nerd.
So, yeah. I mean, you know what? I'm not even gonna say let's because there's no structure here. There's no anything. So, Katie, I feel like you probably hated this.
I did not hate this.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think I came into this with exactly the right level of expectations.
Okay. I think me too. I think
that is what saved it for me. Like I did not expect this to be, good. I will say it was a trip.
Oh, it's a trip. I mean, what I will say is I feel like we've had this conversation, never on the podcast. We had this conversation where I've expressed multiple times my shock at Robert Kirkman's love of the 90s because of how different his style is.
This is just
you can see his love of the 90s in this book because this is just 90s.
Fucking Lucifer was in like his fullest actioniest form.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I mean all the art, like Tony Moore style departs so crazily from this as soon as he does anything that isn't Battle Pope. Like the second he moved on to, eventually Walking Dead, like such a departure. Like not even in the same ballpark. You can see his art grow just across these 4 issues. Don't get me wrong, but just stylistically such a wild thing to see Tony Moore doing this. Like it's wild. It does not seem like him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Battle Pope. I mean, do you want to run through the plot for us?
Yeah, and like this is where I'm saying like the trace of like what makes Kirkman and to some extent more eventually like so great is here in the ridiculousness of Battle Pope, because it's rage bait, it's like controversial on purpose to just try and get attention, but most people would just do that. Kirkman actually has like a world and a plot and shit built through this that's there, as ridiculous as it is, and I think that's a testament to how good he will end up being. But yeah, so the plot is essentially the day of reckoning comes. You know, the judgment day finally arrives on Earth. God goes, you can come. You can come. Oh shit, there's only two of you who are actually good enough to come to heaven. And he's not happy. So he's like, all right, opening the gates of hell. So demons kind of start to come on Earth. We have like, I don't think they say how long it is, but there's a long war between like demons and humans. And finally, they sign a treaty, so the gates close, but they're still now just demons like chilling on Earth. And eventually, God feels guilty for abandoning Earth, so he has sent Saint Michael previously to like lead Earth's forces against the demons, and he decides that's not enough once Lucifer kidnaps Saint Michael. So he goes to the Pope. He's like, "Listen, you haven't been a very good Pope, but I need somebody, and my son Jesus is an idiot, so I'll send Jesus to be your sidekick, but you have to be a Pope themed superhero now to save
With
the
a
day
massive
and to
schlong.
save Saint Michael." With a massive schlong, a Pope belt that mainly just has cigars and lighters in it.
And an ass
Man,
that
this is
even
book of
impresses
time for its
demons.
time. Yeah. I mean, it's a wild it's a wild time. So then basically, they go to try, they bumble around for a while, they fight zombie twins, um
And then
who
every
can like
dead person
merge.
on Earth.
Yeah, well, first they merge into like some weird one light, like just they downgrade themselves when they merge, and
This never
then
works. Why did
they,
we do this?
yeah, yeah. Which, like, again, there's actually some solid humor. There's a lot of humor in this that doesn't land, but there's some humor in this that does
Yeah.
land, and that was one of the moments that I thought really landed. But yeah, then like every dead body comes, and then there's a great line also where Satan's like, "Oh yeah, nobody's here because they summoned all of the
Dude,
dead."
I would read an entire comic just in that like 10-minute span when Lucifer is alone in Hellcorp and trying to fend for
Yes,
himself. He like goes
yes,
grocery shopping for bread. That was my favorite part.
that was so fun. He was like, "How's so the weather's kind of great," and like you never see modern Kirkman write humor. So it's a wild trip to go back to where you started and see this humor. But essentially, they find Saint Michael. They fail at first because freaking Satan has like removed the halo from Saint Michael, but kept Saint Michael alive so he can use the halo. And basically, if you have a halo and demon horns, you're a god.
You're
So now he's
better
a
than God.
god. You're better than God, right? So Battle Pope now has failed. So he is sentenced to hell. He goes to hell, basically bumbles around for a little bit, learns that some of the people in hell are pretty okay with being in hell. Like this one dude who's having like all his organs eaten, weirdly okay with it. But basically, then once he finds out that the gate's being guarded by just the funniest drawn
Cerberus.
Cerberus. Thank you. I was about to say Cerebus because comic book guy. Um, but ever, and he kicks him in the balls, gets through the gate of hell back to Earth, goes back. Doesn't really save the day. It turns out that Satan can't wear the
Halo for very
halo
long,
without
yeah.
like exploding, so he explodes. And then basically Battle Pope is finally offered his place in heaven, which is what he was offered to do this in the first place. He would finally get to go to heaven. And he goes,
Which it is
"No, man,
confirmed has total babes in it. Because St. Peter was
has total
accepting
babes because
sexual favors.
he was accepting sexual favors. He was accepting sexual favors. There's what is this
We haven't
book?
finished the summary, and I have finished mine off.
Dude, this is I mean, there's a reason we decided to start with this book for the strange Saturday Super Show. This book
I
is
don't know that we
strange.
introed.
I did. I said thank you everybody for joining us, but we didn't really intro the
That's
concept. It's absurdist comic books.
More importantly, I don't think we said the name at the start.
I
Oh,
did.
wonderful.
I said
I'm
thank
glad
you
that you've
everybody
got
for joining us for the strange
head on your
Saturday
shoulders.
Super Show. Yeah. But anyway, he says, "Nah, man, nah, God, I'm good. I want to be a superhero with Jesus. Jesus is like, I'm having fun, man. I'm gonna chill
I love
here."
Jesus
Jay,
so much.
by the way, Jesus is called Jay. Often,
You bringing that up for any particular reason, Jay?
No. Yeah. No reason. No reason. But
I can only
that's
hope
kind of
that I'm the battle pope to your Jesus.
I guess this whole thing kind of then functions as like the quote unquote origin for Battle Pope being like a superhero moving forward in the, I think, like 9 more main issues and a bunch of like one shots and spin-offs. I think it goes to like issue 13 or something like that. But there's also like one shots and stuff. But that's the plot. No, I'm not like leaving things out to me. It's about as hard to follow. Well, not hard. It's actually pretty well done in terms of being easy to follow. But it's about as strange to follow as it just sounded.
Yep, and about as simple as it just sounded.
Yeah.
It's a lot of just like gratuitous action and bad sex jokes.
Yes.
Which, like,
yes, that's where I said the 90s. That's where I said the 90s. Yeah. I mean, there's there's things that have aged poorly. Maybe they were actually aged poorly at the time too, but it's like you said, there is a place for some of this, and at the same time, it knows what it's never doing anything from like, I think, a place of like, we think that this is like, okay, it's done very intentionally as an over the top,
the most complimentary way possible. When I say there's not a drop of this book that is sincere.
Yes, absolutely. I called it rage bait earlier, and I really do think like that's a fairly solid overarching, like term for it, in the sense of like they were doing a lot to be like, and I think Kirkman said as much. They wanted attention, like the book was meant to draw attention, and I mean, with the careers that they've had, I think it worked to some extent. But it's a wild time. I'm talking a lot. You talk, Katie. I'm circling the drain on saying the same things here.
You took us through that plot super well. I feel like it is my duty to say this book doesn't respect women.
No, I was circling saying that, but I'm like, I'll let you get
I figured that was my job to
that.
be the more critical one here.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't respect women. It makes various jokes that are like, oh, this is uncomfortable to read. But honestly,
I mean, there's not a single female character in this book that is anything but something for the Pope to like try and, fuck.
I don't even know that. I'm trying to think of a single one of them has a name.
Did the demon
right?
woman
That's
get a
who
name?
I was thinking of. I don't know that she did. But
No, did the woman he was in bed with that like died immediately? Did she get a name? I felt like she got a name. No, that's rough.
Yeah.
The zombie twins then tried to.
Oh, I love that. Where it's like,
the idea.
Oh, that's disgusting, man. She's not even rotten yet.
I will say, as fucked up as nice little subversion of like the thing. That you were thinking that they were going to, like the necrophilia would be, but it's, yeah.
It was very much one of those things where I would like you obviously jumped in this assuming that I hated it, and like it's not something that I would have picked up on my own.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it outright in a way that I think that I would if I didn't wholeheartely believe that it was done in at least a semi-critical manner.
Yeah.
Like I have not read much or any of Kirkman's work outside of this, really.
I've read a decent amount, I'd say.
Yeah, but from just, what I've heard is that Walking Dead has some very great female characters. I've heard that Invincible is a little rough, but that he actually has had a hand when making the show to like kind of course
Yeah.
correct on that.
It's like I said, I think there's some product of the time
Oh, for sure.
in there again that maybe is should have been better by this time, but there is a lot of like I think Kirkman has acknowledged as much to where like he is developed his ability
Exactly.
to write certain groups of characters with time,
And
but
also,
also
double-edged sword. Um,
yeah.
it doesn't really focus enough on the women for them to be like poorly written. It's like, oh, they're not written at
And
all.
the other thing I will say, like, not to pillow it really, because it's not, because like there is no question that women get a really shitty end of the stick in this book. But also, I don't think this book respects anyone.
I mean, that's
You
fair.
know,
I think that it.
like I said, not to pillow it because there's a different
Mhm.
there's a different vibe
For
about it and
sure,
like the way
yeah.
that it's done. But also, like, this is a book in which Jesus is treated as if like he is the dumbest thing to ever
Okay, here's
exist.
the thing.
You know,
Just to
yeah.
kind of cap off, women not written well in this, not a surprise.
Yes.
Knowing even as
Yes.
little as I did going into it. To pivot to Jesus.
J-Dog.
Oh my god, I loved Jesus so much. I in the past read a much more sincere comic by the name of Second
I also
Coming,
just love that.
which sounds like something that the Battle Pope would be into.
Oh,
Uh,
actually, this one's even better.
even better. Look at that. I
Jesus picking his
Jesus
nose
picking his
for
nose,
audio
yeah,
listeners.
in a shirt
Yeah,
that
yeah.
says "Where's the beef?" Um, but
It says "What would I do?"
oh,
But
he also
yeah,
has a "Where's the beef?" one.
he does. He does. But I was like, I don't think it was that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has a
Anyway,
few
I'm
good
sorry. Keep
shirts.
going. Yeah.
But Second Coming, it was put out by Ahoy Comics. I'm kicking myself. I don't remember the creative team on it, but it is very much a sincere kind of portrayal. Like it's a much sweeter book. It has a startlingly similar concept where Jesus is sent out to train and help out with like a superhero. Uh,
Yeah.
he's cute in that book. He's so fucking funny in this book.
He is one of the highlights of this book. I'm thinking of like there's some cool things in it, like kind of the straight man of Saint Michael being like the only person in this entire book who's like even somewhat like
Yeah.
competent, I guess is the way that I would put it, and that's I think well done too.
Mhm.
But
And I
it's
loved
so
when Saint Michael is like, "No, the way to stop the demon is to kill me," and then Jesus just like can't do
yeah.
it because he's too much of a
He's like, I
pussy.
can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like, you died, Jesus. You know you're fine. You just go to heaven.
You literally have been crucified multiple times.
Oh, well, he said you get used
Exactly.
to it. You
That's
know,
what I'm
the
saying.
pain
That's what
kind
I'm
of
saying. You'd think
subsides.
you'd be
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
everything
You get used to crucifixion.
Yeah.
You don't get used
It's
to getting
like
shot in the
rush
head,
hour.
apparently. It's just crucifixion. Yeah.
God, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Uh,
And I loved,
yeah.
like, across the board, all the demons. Uh, they're
Yeah.
all, because of the nature of the book, in that it's trying to be as stupid as possible, the characters who
Mm-hmm.
lean into the stupidity are the ones who are just served the best.
Absolutely. It's what I think there was a time in my life where I would be so offended by this book, like in my like Christian upbringing and everything. But like there's a level to it, because we've shot I think the issues with it, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna like move
for
past those.
sure.
I think for like there's a quality here where I don't take any of this as like Kirkman making legitimate criticism towards
Mhm.
anything really. Like it feels a lot more like him just being like, well, this is dumb. Well, this is dumb or fun or like the most opposite of what you would want to happen here or what should. And I'm just gonna do that. Like I don't think this is a legitimate like, you know, anti-Jesus book
Mhm.
so much as it is what if we just made Jesus an idiot because that would be really funny. Like I don't take this as some grand criticism of
Oh,
religion.
yeah, like, it's
Maybe that's
not.
my
Like,
like
I think it very
yeah.
definitively, um, is not at least a thoughtful criticism of the Catholic Church at all
Yeah.
on any level. Like you said at the start, it literally is rage bait. Like it's literally
Yeah.
made to be startlingly offensive. but in
The
its
ads for it
commitment
are so good in that sense.
in its commitment to
I don't know if you
being
saw
just
those back.
like kind of obscene offensive, it's not like
Yeah,
critical at all. um so like you can definitely imagine the you know, preachers' wives clutching their pearls, but I don't think that like a biblical scholar would give any merit to the book as an anti-Jesus piece.
absolutely. I want to give some attention to these ads because they are fucking awesome. I'm putting them up on camera if you have the video
Come on,
version
Jaybird,
to just
paint us
like
the
look
word
at. But
picture. Choose your
I'm gonna read
favorite.
them. I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna read one.
Beautiful.
Okay, it's got to be the he's back Jesus one, right? Like that's got to be the one I think I
Do
did
it.
here. It's Jesus, arm up, like leaning back, looking very vulnerable, and it says he's back. Maybe he'll last a little longer this time. Read all about the return of Jesus H. Christ in Battle Pope issue 2. It's Christ delicious. Like I think that's the best one there. It's so good.
It's so good. Like it's just stupid, and it's
Yeah.
trying to be stupid.
Yeah, it really it so is. I I feel like we have to talk about the art a little bit
I would love to talk about
because
the
it's
art,
such
because as much
90s
as
art.
the um like words of the book are a almost parody of 90s vibes, like the fucking cigars are clearly a like
In the fucking in the look at the character sheets where it's like, trademark cool
yeah,
cigar. You know?
like it's all so, I don't even want to say satirized. It's more parody than satire.
Yeah. That's very true. It's not, I think that's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
The art pushes that to the fucking extreme, dude. Like the amount of just wrinkly muscles, the oddities in proportion, just oh my gosh, it's
Ass
so fucking
shots.
silly.
There's like a silhouette of Jesus in the moon when he's being chucked by Battle Pope. Fantastic. Like the Pope belt. I love the Pope belt so
Yeah, there's
much.
just so many
The fucking like
familiar elements where you're
the
like, I know
Batman looking
exactly
shot,
what the
like
hell is happening
posed on the corner of the rooftop where Battle Pope has like his giant ass binoculars.
here.
And like also credit to Robert Kirkman for not knowing how to write scripts at this point and just doing page layouts.
Right? I saw
Like
that in the opening
impressive.
credits where it's like, oh, layout scripter or whatever he called himself. It's like, hot
Yeah.
damn.
I mean,
Layout artist.
I don't know if this is still a well kept secret, but Robert Kirkman's actually a good comic book artist. Not really a well known fact. He's done several covers for Spawn. Did the first 5 pages of Spawn 500. Sorry, 200.
Mhm.
Spawn has not made it
No.
to 500. Spawn 200. Did the first 5 pages of Spawn 200 with Todd McFarlane like inking his work. He's done a bunch of layouts and stuff. The dude can. He's done character designs. Like very much capable artist. Not the guy who you're gonna have doing a major book writing, but for a writer who never really did any art to any extreme, very capable
Yeah, I
artist.
also think with something like he's credited here as layout artist, that's just such a
Yeah.
product of being like a comic super fan. Like knowing
Oh
what the
yeah.
page should look like is really just a product of reading a ton of comics. Like this is clearly
Yeah.
a you can only do a good parody of something if it's something that you love.
Yeah, and like you would expect it to be like the roughest of layouts. That it was just like, oh, this guy kind of goes here and this guy goes here, and Tony Moore. But you look at those layouts versus the pencils, and like, yeah, Tony Moore's obviously adding all the detail and like the really nice art and stuff. But like, those are some detailed
Yeah.
layouts by Kirkman with like full on body figures and everything. And it's not like Moore really deviates a ton for the most part. So absolute credit in
Oh
that
yeah.
sense, I think.
Yeah, I also want to bring up how funny the portrayal of God is, both as a personality and as like a character on the page.
Like the cloud face of like
Exactly.
a
He
Zeus.
like takes up the entire panel when he's there with this flowing hair and this golden light. Um, it looks so good. It's such an interesting way of, you know, like, how do you portray God? Like, that is a weird question to ask, even in like a parody book like this.
Yeah.
And they don't go what I would call the easy route of just like, ah, man with a white beard, that's God, or uh, small soldiers, GI Joe looking dude, that's God. Uh, but it's actually creatively done.
That's a deep cut right there.
That's a reference to our Twitter timeline, uh, where I
Me and Katie
divulged,
had way too long of a
right?
conversation. Yeah,
My
yeah,
childhood image
yeah.
of God was a Small Soldiers, the movie from the 90s, action figure of someone named, oh, what's his name? What's his stupid ass name?
Chip, it's like Chip
It's like
something,
Chip
right? Or something
Chip
like that.
Hazard.
Chip Hazard. Yeah, yeah,
And for
yeah.
my entire childhood,
And me
that's
and
how I
Katie were
saw
looking for
God.
this figure because Katie didn't have the name or anything. So we were
Yeah.
just looking for this figure for like an hour and a
We
half or
finally found
whatever.
it.
We do dumb shit. If you like, we hang out so much doing just dumb shit like this off of podcasts. So
Whoa,
yeah.
really? We were friends before we started a podcast?
I meant we did dumb shit before we started a podcast. But
We've, I
um
think our entire origin story is just us doing dumb shit. But yes,
oh
I've
yeah,
ordered
yeah,
a
yeah.
DVD copy of Small Soldiers to commemorate God forever. Uh,
And I really want us to do a bonus episode talking about that movie at some point.
I think we might.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be really that would be so fun, honestly. Um,
But yeah, to jump back to Battle Pope, their portrayal of
yes,
God
yes,
is
Battle.
both creative and effective, and it's one of those kind of cracks in the armor of this book where it's like, oh, like competent team behind the book. Like this isn't
Yeah,
some like quick decision. This is like a thoughtful, cool thing. And you see that with so many of those little details where it's like, oh, a lot of thought and a lot of love was put into this. A lot of intentionality was put into this. And I think that's one of the reasons that the more offensive parts of it don't read as offensive to me, because it's like, oh, this is, for as stupid as it is, not really a stupid book. It's doing everything very
yeah.
intentionally.
It's yeah. I feel like it's a book that would fall for so many people like onto a guilty pleasure list because it's like you don't want to be enjoying
Mhm.
it, but you kind of are as you read it because you're like sitting there and you're like, well, yeah, this stuff. Maybe these jokes aren't all landed, but like there is a story that I want to like. I do want to read volume two. You know, like I am gonna go and grab volume two and read volume two because there is stuff going on. It's like you said, like there's cracks where you're like, wait, the people making this are not just competent, like they are good at making comic books. Like even in their base first thing they've done, weird, wacky, offensive, you know, if you just flip through it, you looked at the title, you know, we've looked at some books I think that have a similar vibe and stuff that we were like, oh, that's garbage, you know. I'm thinking of a book in particular that I'm not going to mention, but I don't know if it came to your mind at all. But when you actually read this, it doesn't read that way. It
Mhm.
doesn't come across that way of like this is just garbage made by people who were like, here's the headline, let's get some people to read it. It is that, but then it's let's make sure the story inside is strong enough where we can actually retain that or do something with that
I would
attention.
also argue not to, kind of mythologize or assume.
Deify the deities, deify Jesus.
Clever. No, talking about Kirkman and Moore specifically, I think it's one of those things where if you're
Yeah,
good, you can't help but be good. So even when trying to
yeah.
write trash, they're still doing like really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like I'm gonna keep going to the bit because I love that shit so much, and that's honestly why I love getting collected editions. Like everything in the back is like, well, I thought of this, and then Moore thought, well, maybe let's do this, and then Kirkman was like, well, okay, now you've introduced that character, I'm gonna add layers to the story that are gonna do stuff to it. It's such a thing where you're like, you can see the competence of this creative team, and I mean, stating the obvious, the creative team that created The Walking Dead, the biggest comic book property, to come out in the last 20 years, So there it's not, unfounded. And you can also just see from like the zombies, which I think are like the best drawn thing in here, like why that was the way to go.
Why that's the one that stuck with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
so just overall, super fucking fun.
Yeah.
Super fucking stupid, but
Yeah.
surprisingly smart as it does that.
Yes. Yes. That's really the vibe. And I mean, obviously done way later. Colors are really
The
good.
colors are pretty stupendous.
But not there in the original version. So obviously done once they had competent publishers and everything at that point. To be like, let's get a good colorist on this that's gonna actually bring it justice, but very well done. It's I'm sorry, name is escaping
Not
me.
Fiona Staples. I was thrilled
no.
when I saw that. Val Staples. When I saw Staples on the cover, I was like, "There's no way Fiona Staples is on this book."
No. But yeah, I would. We're gonna keep doing the Strange Saturday Super Show every month, and I hope that we do come back to do more.
I mean, I think it's inevitable when Battle Pope is the blueprint, quite literally, for this segment. But like you said, we're shooting for, I think, the second Saturday of every month is going to be our Strange Saturday showcase. It's going to be stupid stuff that we wouldn't normally cover on the pod.
Yeah. There's going to be, I think, a decent amount, or at least we have one other on the list right now that's like early work of really big creator that ends up being really dumb. Because I think that's something that happens somewhat, and not to spoil what it's going to be, so I'll keep that shroud of mystery. But I literally went to Katie when we were doing this. I'm like, I bet this creator has something really weird at the beginning of their timeline, and then we looked it up and we went, oh, they do.
But yeah, I think a lot of the beauty of this is going to be that it's shit that either you haven't heard of or you don't remember. But that being said, tell us shit that you remember that you think no one's heard of. Like, we are looking for stupid stuff. And, even if
it's something your friend made or whatever, if it's been published and it's a weird-ass comic, we want to hear about it.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be bad, is, I think, an important thing.
No, not at all. Strange, not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah. And if you want more Battle Pope, also sound off and let us know. Yeah. But I think that's probably an inevitability. But how fast it comes will probably be a little bit to do with how much people want it.
For sure. But yeah, this was a fun to kind of sit down in a much more casual, not that our podcast is particularly serious or produced, but I am quite literally sitting for this one, which I don't normally do. I get too antsy when we record, so I put my desk into like standing mode configuration. This is cute. This is fun. This is dumb. This is just
Battle Pope.
Joseph Jasonowski.
Not the real Pope. The Battle Pope.
You want to read through the entire thing one more time to send us off?
Oh God,
Take it away.
The Battle Pope is the Battle Pope, not the actual Pope. The actual Pope is still in the Vatican doing Pope work, not battle work. Battle Pope does the battle work, but he's not the Pope. He's the Battle Pope, not the real Pope. Not the real Pope, the Battle Pope.
Beautiful.
Join us the second Saturday of every month for Strange Saturday Super Shows.
We'll see you then. Stay weird!